So, if you've ever played games like Mordhau, Chivalry, or messed around in survival games like Rust, Renown is basically what happens when you throw both of these together. You've got deep medieval combat that makes you think about every swing, plus survival stuff where you start with nothing and need to survive in a world full of crazy players with armor and siege weapons. The big question is, now that it's finally out on September 22nd after years of development, is it actually worth playing? Let me talk about the combat first, because that's what really matters here. At first, it looks pretty simple. You swing a sword, block some attacks, maybe stab someone. Easy, right? Not even close. Once you start learning how it actually works, there's a ton of depth hiding under there. There are things called drags and excels, which sound like bad energy drinks, but they're actually how you mess with your swing timing. Then you've got parrying, morphing attacks, and feints too. But here's the thing. Unlike Chivalry 2, where feints can feel pretty cheap, Renown makes the recovery window longer. That means you can't just spam fake attacks and hope something works. Your mix-ups and swing timing actually matter way more. What really makes the combat stand out is how much it focuses on skill. You're not just counting on having better gear or stats. You actually need to read what your opponent is doing, outsmart them, and get your timing right. And yeah, if you're good enough, you can fight multiple people at once. Thanks to getting stamina back when you kill someone and having a solid parry system, those 1v-many fights are actually possible here. That's something fans of these melee games have wanted forever. Sure, the animations looked kinda janky in the early versions, but the devs keep making them better. You'll still need to get good to win, but at least you won't lose fights because you couldn't tell what attack was coming at you. Now let's talk about the survival part. If you've played Rust, you know how it goes. You spawn with nothing, start chopping trees and hitting rocks, then try to build some gear and a base. Except in Renown, instead of guns and explosives, you're using swords, bows, and trebuchets. This is where it gets really cool. One of the worst parts about survival games is when some fully geared guy kills you right after you spawn. The devs are trying to fix that problem. Gear still matters. Someone in full plate armor is going to beat someone in cloth most of the time. But skill plays a huge part too. If you practice enough, you can beat players with better gear, which makes starting out way less annoying. On top of that, it's full loot. If you die, you lose everything you are carrying. No magic protection, no safe storage, just real consequences. That's pretty harsh, but it makes every fight actually matter. It adds real weight to both attacking and defending bases. Base building is another big part of Renown. Think of it like medieval Rust. Instead of metal doors and turrets, you've got stone walls, wooden walls, and maybe some murder holes. You can build with different materials, probably thatch, wood, stone, maybe brick later on. The higher tier stuff is much harder to break into. Your neighbor's basic hut might break with an axe, but a real stone castle is going to need proper siege weapons. And that's how raiding works here. Forget C4. It's trebuchets, catapults, battering rams, and other cool medieval stuff. The stronger someone's base is, the more resources you'll need to take it down. So while some guy's simple hut might go down easy, a proper fortress needs a real siege. It's a nice balance. Your defenses actually mean something, but they're not impossible to beat. And because it's full loot, raiding actually gets you stuff, instead of just being for fun. There's also this unique mode called Raid Mode. Picture Minecraft Bed Wars, but medieval. Two teams start on opposite sides of a big map with resources in the middle. You get 10 minutes of peace to build your base, make weapons, and set up defenses. After that, it's all-out war. The goal is simple: destroy the enemy's banner with siege weapons and fighting. It's crazy, it's smart, and honestly, it might be the most fun mode in the whole game. The survival part is great, but raid mode feels like something you can play over and over without getting bored. One of the biggest problems with survival games is when servers die out. Games like Atlas, Last Oasis, even Reign of Kings way back. They all had this problem. The good news is Renown is keeping servers smaller. They'll have around 80 to 120 players, which might sound low compared to Rust's 500-player madness, but the maps are made for that size. That means you'll actually run into people, but you won't get jumped every 5 minutes by some huge clan. They're also planning wipe cycles like Rust has. Whether that's every few weeks or every month isn't clear yet, but the idea is to keep things fresh and stop servers from becoming graveyards full of huge bases nobody can touch. Add in voice chat, proximity chat, and maybe modding in private servers later, and there's lots of ways players can change their experience. And let's be honest, half the fun in these games isn't even the fighting, it's the weird stuff that happens with other players. One minute you're trying to make peace, the next minute someone's bashing your head in with a mace while you're both screaming at each other. The development story is pretty cool too. This started with less than 5 people on the team, and the early demos honestly weren't that great. But they've gotten way better over the years. They did different crowdfunding things, but now they're saying they don't want to ask for more money. They just want to show what they made. They're planning to be in early access for 12 to 18 months before the full release, and they want to support the game for years. Right now in early access, you get gathering, crafting, building stuff, voice chat, PvP and PvE fighting, base raiding, tech trees, open world, points of interest, melee and ranged combat, animals to hunt, safe zones, server events, group systems, and full loot. Later on, they want to add more weapons and siege stuff, better building and destruction, more biomes and world events, better social systems, reputation and mission stuff, automated crafting, and modding support. Performance looks pretty good too. During tests, they had over 25,000 building pieces on servers running okay, though they did have problems with new players joining and some lag issues. They made changes so that bases that get raided decay faster, which frees up space for new people. The world looks like those classic European forests where you can put your little house and maybe build it up to a castle. There are ruins and castles already there to explore. The potential for players to actually work together and make real villages protecting each other is there. How cool would it be if people actually made big towns with voting for leaders, councils, backstabbing, bribes, blackmail, all that political drama that makes survival games memorable? At around $25 for early access, the price seems fair. There are some PvE areas mentioned, so maybe there's ways to avoid constant PvP if you don't want that. But from what I've seen, it'll be like Rust, where anywhere you build can probably get raided. The good news is during demos, they had it so successful raids gave you resources back or lots of gold. So there's reason to go after big targets instead of picking on small players. There's going to be a training area and archery range so you can practice before jumping in. The directional combat might scare some people. I'll admit it's something you actually have to learn instead of just mashing buttons, but most players like systems where skill actually matters. Another thing worth mentioning is customization. Armor, weapons, characters, you've got decent options. You're not stuck looking like every other knight running around. There's no skill tree system planned, and dying wipes your progress completely. But you can still show your style through gear and builds. It's simple, but it fits with the hardcore survival thing they're going for. So is Renown worth playing? If you like survival games but hate how guns usually take over the endgame, this is a nice change. It's the same brutal lose everything when you die setup, but with medieval combat and siege warfare instead. If you're a fan of games like Chivalry or Mordhau, the combat here feels like a natural next step, with enough skill stuff to keep duels fun and team fights chaotic in a good way. On the flip side, this is still going to be an early access survival game. That means bugs, balance problems, and probably lots of times when you'll rage about losing everything. Server sizes might feel small to some people, animations still need work, and the survival stuff won't be for everyone. If you hate losing progress, this might not be your thing. But the potential is definitely there. Between the unique raid mode, mixing survival with skill-based melee combat, and the devs focusing on balancing gear and player skill, Renown could find a solid spot in the genre. Whether it actually works long-term depends on updates and community support, but as an early access start, it looks pretty strong. The fact that they went from a tiny team with questionable early demos to something that actually looks polished gives me hope. They're not asking for more crowdfunding money. They're just saying, here's what we built, check it out. That kind of confidence usually means they have something real to show. Whether you're into medieval combat, survival chaos, or epic base raids, Renown has enough going for it to be worth checking out. It's not going to change gaming forever, but it might be the medieval survival game that finally gets the balance right. And honestly, in a genre full of half-finished early access disasters, that alone makes it worth keeping an eye on.